Hey guys, what's up?
In Colombia.
I'm in
Colombia.
Colombia. Yeah,
Was that
I'm
on
up
the
on a
plaque? Was
rooftop.
that on the roof? Was that the little
No,
drawing of the map of the world that you had Colombia in it? Or
no, I completely changed plan. I really, really, really wanted to go to Brazil to see Felipe Sensei in Rio de Janeiro, but I had to change plans because I'm running out of money a lot faster than I thought I would. And getting to Brazil is expensive. It was going to be like from where I was in northern Peru, I was going to have to fly to Lima, in the capital of Peru, and then fly from there to Sao Paulo, and then fly from there to Rio, and the whole thing was going to be like $500 or $600 or something like that. Or I could just get a boat along the Amazon River for 2 days and take one flight from South Colombia to North Colombia, which is where I am now, and that flight only costs like $100. So yeah, sorry, Felipe Sensei.
that's shit. Yeah, to sound really class.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 day trip on the Amazon River sounds amazing. Did you see
It
the
was
giant anaconda?
I saw something. At one point, it was probably just like one of those pink dolphins or something.
Yeah.
I did see something kind of coming up out of the water and dipping down again, looking very suspicious. It was probably Nessie,
Well, that was
probably
his
old
time of year.
Nessie.
Apologies. I don't want to say anything though, but he's behind you right now. So we
Um,
last spoke to you in New
yes.
Orleans.
No, no, no. I was already in San Diego.
No, when we talked to you since you trained Steve? Well, you're just about no, you were just about to. That's it. Well, you were in San Diego and you were talking about New Orleans and all that kind of and Memphis and everything,
Yeah,
and you were about to train with Steve. We haven't spoken to
yeah.
you at all, I don't think, since you trained with Steve, and how you found out that you were learning so much from Steve Sensei because you just hadn't been taught anything up until that point. So
It's
let's start off from there, shall we? Start from scratch
my
and relearn
my
everything.
karate education has finally begun. No, I think I had done one or two sessions with Steve Sensei, but Sarah was still with me. So I arrived and I told I arrived and Sarah and I had just been in San Francisco, and we had a beautiful holiday up there, and then we came down to San
So for the
Diego,
people who
and
watch and listen to this, like Sarah
yes,
is the girl that you love.
yes, it's my wee Sarah.
I don't think you've mentioned Sarah before, have you not?
I
Not at
mentioned
length,
her
anyway.
on the last podcast. Not at like
Well, not
she had her first karate lesson on the beach in San Francisco.
did she not?
She did, yeah, yeah, and she even attended. She even attended and observed one of Steve's classes.
Very good. Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
which is
So
probably
she
terrible
thought
for her.
about
She had to sit for
we would
three
see her at
hours.
Trangiacomo.
But Steve, like ever the gentleman that he is, tried to not include her, but like whenever he was making a point or talking, or that he was always glancing over at her and like including her in the conversations, and she's just like, I haven't a clue, mate.
That's right. Any questions? So
So
go on, tell us
anyway,
about Steve. Tell us all.
okay. So I did a couple of sessions with Steve Sensei, and then Sarah went home to Ireland, and then I was training every single day. So whilst I was there, the first couple of times they were like, "Oh, when are we going to train again? Tomorrow?" And I was like, the woman is still in town. Can we wait until she's gone?" And then Sarah went home, and then it was just like every single day. Every time we finished a session at like 7 or 8 p.m. or sometimes even later, Wayne would go, okay, so tomorrow? And Steve would go, okay. And I go, okay. And that was just every single day. So I only missed 2 days. One day was Thanksgiving. So I mean, we didn't organize training for that day, and another day I had to cancel because I had to work the evening at the hostel because people were sick. So what can I say about training with Steve Sensei? It was obviously you don't want to classify it, you don't want to like characterize it negatively, but there were moments which were extremely discouraging. But that's just the ego getting in the way. Um, especially when I can't stop myself from being such a naive tit sometimes. I showed up on one of the days, I think it was only day 2, saying I'd love to have a look at Kata Jin Sensei, and he goes, "No, I think we should look at Heian Shodan." And that kind of became the line that we followed. Every day he'd go, "What do you want to work on?" And the next day I said Heian Nidan, and then Heian Sandan. We worked our way up like that, and I was just always just naming a kata at the start of every session, and we'd go for 2 or 3 hours usually. And the really, really wonderful and bafflingly privileged thing of it all was that he was paying attention nearly 100% to me for these entire sessions. This is just my experience. Most of the time there were 1 or 2 other people in the dojo. It was either Wayne Sensei or Bao or Beth. I met another guy called Steve at one point, but he was always just 100% focused on me, and I was just full of questions. I was trying my hardest to just keep it moving and keeping the information coming out of him because he gets cagey. And whenever I'd ask a question which was above my station, he'd just go like, "Do your research." Like I asked him, why do we go on?
Did you film any of this?
No, no. I know I could have, but I was taking notes, and I was
And you're never
taking
going to
notes,
publish
and
them, just like Steve Sensei taught you.
yeah, exactly. I'm going to keep it all to myself. Notice how I haven't gone into any detail about what he taught me so far. It's because it's between me and Steve.
You don't remember. You were
But he
saying
is.
something. You
Go
were
on.
about to say something there. You were about to say something there about training.
Yeah, he is so full of information it boggles the mind. He took notes and he remembers everything that Nishiyama Sensei and Nakayama Sensei ever taught him. So he's an encyclopedia. He's not just an encyclopedia, he has a library of encyclopedias in his head. But he is quite protective of that information because he really doesn't like it when people reference exactly what he's taught them and pass on that information without crediting it. So I was like, whenever that came up quite a lot during our sessions. People pass these ideas off as their own, and I was always thinking like, I'm just a little tit though. Who am I going to pass this on to? Nobody can. I'm probably going to forget it all anyway. um, but that makes it sound like he wasn't generous. He was incredibly generous and gracious with all his time, like every day for 3 weeks, daily sessions, 1-on-1, 2 hours, 3 hours. It was unbelievable. I like when I first heard about Steve Ubel, I was like 23 or 24 years old, and everybody talked about him in such superlatives. So I thought, wow, this is the Grandmaster, the beacon on the hill. That 23-year-old version of me believe, would not believe that I would, about 10 years later, have Steve Sensei all to myself for 3 weeks every day for as long as I wanted. And it was as long as I wanted as well. We'd come to the end of the 3-hour session and I'd be like, oh, Sensei, I'm going to go get changed now. Wayne is already changed, like waiting. And he's like, what? Oh, okay. Okay. Like, oh, you want to end the session, do you? No matter what time. But usually it would be, usually by the 2-hour mark, I'm just like overwhelmed and I'm like, my head is My head has stopped functioning. It's late in the day. I'd been housekeeping, scrubbing toilets since 7:30 or 8 that morning. And it usually took me 2 hours to travel to the dojo every evening. That's another thing. I'll go back to my daily routine in a second. But I'd be bet and I'd had enough and I'd try and keep going. So then we get to 2.5 hours and I'd be like, Sensei, I'm really tired. And he'd be like, oh, okay, fine. Okay, whatever. I'm like, I can't. I'm just not processing it anymore. I'd be trying to do this turn or this move, trying to get the footwork right, and I would just stop learning, stop improving. So there was only so far you could go because the training wasn't physically demanding. It was very, very mentally. So my time in San Diego, I was volunteering at the hostel I was staying in. I'm trying to save some money. So I asked them if I could work, and they said yeah. And I became part of that little gang and made a bunch of friends. But it meant that my days were full. I was starting every morning at either 7:30 or 8, and I spent a good 5 hours working, making beds and scrubbing toilets and vacuuming and doing whatever else. And then I'd have about 2 hours to sit down from about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, but I'd have to go at 3 o'clock because I was 20 minutes late for the first session. I told you about that on the last podcast. I really, really didn't want to be late again. So I made sure I got there nice and early every evening. And I'd sit down outside the Denny's right by the dojo. And I called it the Denny's of Destiny because every day I'd sit there and go like, oh, fuck. Here we go again. Not that I didn't feel privileged and honored, just because I knew it was going to be so hard, and it always was. So I'd put my head in my hands outside the Denny's of Destiny, and then go in for 2 or 3 hours of discouragement, and that was my day. I'd get home then. We train until 7 or 8, and I'd get home then about an hour and a half later. Steve Sensei always gave me a lift back to the tram stop, which saved me about 50 minutes of walking. And those were my days, and that was it. I did feck all. There was no nights out. There was no craziness. I'd get back to the hostel and I'd chill for a little while and go to bed and do it all the next day.
Good. That's great.
Yes.
So, Con, give us some highlights.
Okay.
That you're willing to share with us, mortals, since you've been to Denny's of Destiny. The secret to the perfect zucchini. Perfect zucchini.
Perfect zucchini?
Yes.
Zucchini. The perfect. I already mastered the perfect zucchini. My pasta bakes have always been. Anyway, I well, I learned an awful lot about what I was doing wrong regarding stances and back leg drive and things like that. And I don't know, you guys probably know I've always got a really sore right knee. I've had a pain in my right knee forever, for about 2 years now. My knee would be sore all day housekeeping, would be sore all walking to the dojo. And then once we'd start training and I'd be making my stances the way Steve Sensei wanted me to make my stances, the pain disappeared. So it was all about the engagement that I didn't have in my back leg. I always thought I had it. Like I thought I was doing it right. I was like, yeah, back leg drive. I know about back leg drive. Yeah, it's good stuff. I can do that, no problem. And he'd be like, nope, 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 no, 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 nope. And then whenever I was doing it right, my knee felt so much better. So it was this glute and quad engagement, which I just turned off as soon as I drove into stance. I turned off, and my fucking pelvis would be lopsided, and everything was just out of whack and not engaged properly. So my stances got a little bit shorter as I was working this out, and it feels so much better. My knee feels, it's amazing how much better it feels. So we just did tons of Gyakuzuki and tons of Oizuki just so that I could try and get Shomen Dutch, Zenkutsu Dutch right. And it's improved a lot. Like Steve Sensei said so, like compared to the way it was when I walked in, it's miles better. Besides that, my knee was doing other things. It was always buckling inside in Kokutsu Dutch as well. Whenever it was like my back leg, so if I had left leg forward in Kokutsu Dutch, my right knee was buckling in all the time. So it's just weakness in my hips in general. What else? I don't turn on the heel anymore. bad for you.
Yes.
They say turning on
Yes.
the
Yes. Get the box. It's not even waste
they
time.
say turning on the heel is
Actually,
like smoking, gives you cancer.
waste time. Gives you leg cancer. Is that
Yeah, it gives you leg cancer.
it? Okay,
No,
fair
he
enough.
said he's no, that I'm not. I'm taking the piss. He said Nakayama Sensei was never particular about that. You can do whatever. There's certain times when it makes more sense to do one or the other, but generally don't fucking get hung up about it. Now, again, that's me quoting Steve Sensei, so that I'm just going to say quickly that's my understanding of what he told me because I'd hate to be misrepresenting him. And he said even when people say, "Oh, Steve Sensei said this, Steve Sensei said that," they're always a little bit wrong. He said, like,
Yeah.
that's not exactly what I said, or that's not, maybe I said that, but I didn't mean all the time. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, he told me. And I said, oops.
Is that what he said? Only a
No,
Sith deals in absolute snow. It's not like.
that was Obi-Wan Kenobi Sensei. Or was it? Yeah, it was.
I thought he was
There
quoting
were,
the good old Obi-Wan fan copy. Um, do I have to comment on that? Yeah. Let the world know your thoughts on this controversial topic. I don't think it's controversial. I just think people don't understand it. Like, my point is that I think he's absolutely right. There's no athletic pursuit in the world where you'd create an explosive movement and pivot on your heel. However,
hmm,
pivoting on your heel is a great training method, simply like exactly the same as making big preparations when we block, or making long exaggerated stances, or holding our form. These are all training methods in order to kind of increase the connection of mind and body. So kind of creating a greater physical intelligence. But of course, once you go through that training regime, and pivoting on the heel is one of them in order to kind of build up inner thigh muscle connection and your connection to your center and your legs, torso and body. Once you go through that training regime, once you actually do it with freedom, without thought, then you're not going to pivot on your heel, ever. But in Kion and in performances of kata, then I suspect 90% of the time you're pivoting on your heel. That's my
us.
thought process. But as soon as you pivot on your heel, you're taking away the explosive nature of you're taking away the use of your arch of your foot and your calf, and they are, for their size, the most explosive part of your body, apart from your heart, and you're literally taking the spring in your step away, and so we should never do that in an application of karate or physicality. But you would take them away in order to train that physicality. That's what I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, and I've always that's always been the way I would have spoken about it too, simply because I've been your student for so long. But wait, what's wrong?
I scratched my neck and I just saw this huge arm come into the screen. I was like, Jesus. That's
But
Ross's contribution to the paintball foot and heel debate. Yuck.
yeah,
That's
no,
massive.
you made your point beautifully, and there's no way to disagree with that. It's just that Steve Sensei operates on a different paradigm. He
Yeah,
doesn't believe
absolutely.
as far as I understand from what he told me during our 3 weeks of daily sessions, he works by a practicality and self defense paradigm, and that's seems to be all that
Yeah,
matters to him. Yeah,
yeah,
which
absolutely.
was wonderfully novel for me, and I feel like I
Mm,
learned an awful lot.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you have to when you go and train with Steve, you have to speak his language and
Mm,
buy into his thought process 100%. And when you buy into that, then everything he does and says is 100% accurate. And even if you don't actually, everyone should in a small or big way buy into his thought process that karate is a self-defense, and everything that we do should have practicality, 100% function rather than form. But yeah, once you buy into that, you can't argue with anything he's saying.
mm,
But then
yeah.
sometimes he's got great depth within that field. But also, there's great breadth in Shotokan as well. So there's lots of reasons why we would do things a certain way.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there was
Things
all
we
of that.
pass.
There was the technical there was all the technical tidbits that I was learning and trying to incorporate into my karate at the same time. And I was taking notes on the tram home every evening. I was right. I wasn't at first. I said, no, I'll just remember it when I move. But there was actually so much I had to start taking notes. Um, and then there was also bunkai. We did heaps of bunkai. Um, and he doesn't like giving it all away. Um, because one guy in particular goes around teaching bunkai the exact way he taught it without mentioning his name at all. Um, and ever since I've seen that guy on YouTube now, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's Steve Sensei's bunkai. He showed me that last night.
Yeah,
And
I think I know exactly who you mean.
yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we did heaps of bunkai, and I bit by bit, because we were doing it so much, I kind of realized that it is all there seems to be a lot of different moves, but it is all just variations on one or two ways of defending yourself from the same kind of attacks that usually come. But man, oh man, I've been thrown around the dojo now by a lot of people, but Steve Sensei was so generous in just how much he fucking knocked the shit out of me. It was marvelous. It was his favorite thing for a few days running was clotheslining me, pulling me towards him, and wham, fucking right on my neck, and I'd flip and hit the floor. Oh man, it was really cool. Every time I got up, I was just like, so cool.
So now that you've said that, then we can openly say who you were talking about before, about who steals his application. Steven Seagal.
No.
Steven Seagal. He's always
He
doing
loves a
it.
good
He's always
clothesline.
doing it.
You're right.
Always.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, fucking
No,
hell.
Steven.
So yeah, he was clotheslining me every day. One time he did the most basic takedown, like the leg, center of gravity goes off a little bit, and then you just, the one. It's like Oizuki as a takedown, or Gakuzuki as a takedown.
Let's
Right.
think through
He
what.
did that. Yeah, but Jesus Christ, he barely moved. He barely fucking moved. He had the technique just right, so that all he had to do was pulse his core a little bit, and I practically backflipped. Oh, it was amazing. It was so damn cool. The guy is 75, 76. Oh. So
Yeah.
that was really fun, and I got a couple of clappers in the face, but not too bad. Nothing had left a black eye, but lots of punches in the belly. Lots of kicks in the belly. The way he can kick without moving a single cell in his body, except the leg. Like he goes into a state of stasis, a state of like quantum fucking whatever, and then boop, leg comes up and flatters you right in the solar
And
plexus.
for the people at home,
I
try
saw him. I saw him doing it.
try to get a front
Sorry,
stance
go
and
on.
have someone do it. Like what me and Tommy practice all the time, making front stance, put your hand on somebody's hand on your forehead and try and kick without moving. It's fucking impossible. But
Yeah,
he does it, yeah.
yeah,
Amazing.
he does it. I saw him doing
Yeah.
Uramewash.
Really?
Yeah, I was trying to goad him into doing something fancy. I was like, "Oh, Steve Sensei in the heights again. Did you ever, do jumping kicks or that's all that spinny stuff, or was that just like something that was brought in to make karate more flashy?" And he was like, "Oh well," and he didn't do anything. And I was like, "Oh, what about like an Uramewash?" And he said, "Well, yeah, sometimes it throws up an Uramewash." And I was like, "Cool, yeah." Pretty cool. And I saw him jumping around the dojo imitating Michael Jordan. I'll tell you how that came about. I asked him about chi. Jeez, now I wonder if he'd just be disappointed if I told the story. I don't think so. I asked him about chi, and he said that Nishiyama Sensei spoke to them about chi when he was on the instructor's course, but said that it wasn't any kind of supernatural well of strength or power. It was flow. It was a state of flow where you don't even have to think, where you can use instinct. Um, Cool, yeah, yeah. And he's like said, it's like Michael Jordan that time, and he referenced some really historic game where I don't know the Bulls were losing at going into the fourth quarter, and Jordan just started throwing up 3 pointers, and he couldn't stop. Every time the ball was in his hands, he just leapt and woo. And then Steve Sensei started doing it, dancing around the dojo, jumping up, shooting imaginary 3 pointers. And he's like, he was just flowing and he was shaking his head like, I can't believe it. What am I even doing? That's cheap.
Nice.
I said,
It's a good story.
Yeah.
Great reference as well.
yeah.
Cool.
So that was awesome. It was just
That's what
a
she
real.
is.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, I obviously, I hope none of us buy into some mystical well of.
I've seen you use cheek and upper over.
I bet he didn't teach you Kiai-Jitsu, did he, eh? Did he teach you Kiai-Jitsu?
I did ask him about Kiais.
Okay.
And he at first he just said do your own research, but then he did tell me a thing or two, but it wasn't. You see, with something which was pretty something which was pretty fun was whenever he wasn't willing to answer a question, which was regularly enough. I had to learn to stop answering questions which were above my station. I should have, anyways, and say, get on, Barack, and just go back to that shit. Which he was also more than happy to just go through the mundanities with me. Anyway, I asked him why do we ki, and then Bao, who is one of his students there, who is a doctor, came over to me and he started explaining TIs to me. And I was like, no, what is Sensei? But then he started saying something really interesting. He was talking about thoracic pressure. It's actually, the way he was explaining it was kind of like, when you lift something really heavy and you go, and then you exhale. And I thought, well, that's not how we ki, but it can be similar, because you're constricting the vocal cords and yeah, it's building up pressure at a certain point. And then Steve Sensei joined in and he started it, explaining it along the same lines, but I didn't really fully understand it because I said, okay, but then that means you ki what, before you do a technique? He said, no, that's ridiculous. I was like, oh, because Paolo Sensei had told us before.
Two-phase Kiai.
Pardon?
You can do a two-phase Kiai where you like I feel, like that feeling.
Okay.
That to me, no, not quite. Yeah. That's maybe
Anyway, I didn't quite understand it. Long story short, it went over my head.
Yeah. Oh well.
Do your own research.
Do your research, Ruth.
Yeah.
Got to do my own research. I missed that. What happened?
Oh, Zoom has failed me. I thought I could project my chi 6,000 miles, but obviously not.
No. I don't. Let me just. I'm just going to quickly look at my notes and see if I have anything else that I ought to say about Steve Sensei. Oh, we did some self-defense as well, like general self-defense, not bunkai, which was downright embarrassing. He got Wayne to attack me, and he's like, "What would you do?" Actually, I don't know. But then I tried a thing or two, and it was just like, no, look at his other hand. You're open. Don't do that again and again and again. So that requires a lot of work. Got lots of stories from Japan.
How did Wayne attack you?
A punch in the face. Yeah. Aikido style. Yeah, no, that was pretty much it.
I'm curious.
He is
like what?
Huh?
I was saying, I'm curious about that. Okay, so Wayne's going to punch in the face. What would you do? And how could your response be wrong?
Yeah.
Like,
because so I do a block and I do a block and a punch. I'd like do a block and a counter, but whatever way I did it, either I delayed too much before the counter, even though I was trying not to, or I put myself in a position relative to Wayne where I was vulnerable to another attack. Which was a big thing for him is positioning. Blocking and countering is not good enough. because if it goes wrong, if you miss, you're vulnerable to another attack. So I feel I learned a fair bit, but we only spent a couple of sessions concentrating on that. So I think that's something that needs a lot of work and consideration on my part. Because I'm on my own journey now, guys.
Untested theory.
But I mean, his great skill, great ability to always move to the outside, no matter what's happened. He's always shifting to the outside and then taking them. So there's never ever room for them to get the second attack in. He's a genius at that.
And I asked him how I was trying to ask him how he developed that. And, did you do loads and loads of drilling? He's like, a little bit, but I can visualize. He said he knows that there's something different about him relative to everybody else, where he can learn how to do this stuff because if he's just in his garage at home, he can visualize it and then implement it perfectly whenever somebody tries to attack him. He doesn't have to drill. He doesn't have to practice because he's a fucking genius.
Yeah, he is a human microscope. He can view things in minute detail and analyze them and then reconstruct them and produce.
Yeah. He showed me some really cool artifacts from his time in Japan as well, like the folder of information that he was given on the instructor's course at Nishiyama, and like their training schedule and which katas they practiced in what month, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. And his belts, I don't know if he'd like me to say. I think I told you guys already, but he's got belts from his time in the instructor's course and belts that were gifted to him from certain really important senseis. Yeah, amazing. Also, some of the jewelry he made back when he was a jeweler.
Yeah.
Excellent. So show you his guitar.
No, I didn't see his guitar. No, he doesn't. He doesn't play guitar anymore.
Mastered that craft. I'll say it to the side. It's too easy for him.
I know. Yeah, just leaves it down. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm really jealous, man. Very jealous.
Yeah. You should go over, man. He's like, he would train with you every day. Just fucking get yourself a cheap room, stay for a month, and he will show up every day.
You're just gonna pay me, right?
Never mind that. Never mind that. Get someone to fill in.
It's not as if he's saving up for a wedding or anything. You can take a month off work.
It's cheap, man. Yeah, but like when we went over last January, we fucking stayed in massive expensive Airbnbs and we ate in restaurants and we fucking, went out drinking and stuff.
It's the tragedy of staying in a decent bed and having a nice meal. Oh.
Yeah, no, forget that. You have to work for your keep. You have to scrub toilets, right? You have to travel for 2 hours to get to the dojo, including an hour-long walk from the tram stop. And you have to suffer. Huh? No, 15 minutes.
Oh, 15.
Yeah.
All right.
50 minutes walking, then about 20 minutes of head in the hands outside the Denny's.
You know what? I think I could do my own research. Work it all out.
Oh, good man.
I've got it sus.
We're just going to nick your notes when you come back because you know you can defend yourself.
Yeah.
You'll go to the wrong side and it'll be open.
Don't put it everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, guys, that was San Diego.
Post San Diego. What have you been doing?
Post San Diego, I said goodbye to the guys. I got them all novelty socks in the dojo. I got bow socks for a doctor, stethoscopes and like little syringes and stuff, all patterned on the socks. And I got Wayne Sensei some Trump socks with Trump's face on them. And I got Beth some socks. They were like pretty and pink and they had flowers on them, but they also said "Go to hell." She's got loads of attitude. She and I did Jiu Kumite one of the days, and she was like a devil. It was like a Tasmanian devil. And I got Steve Sensei a decoy pair. First of all, I got him ninja socks, and there were little cartoon ninjas on them going around with their wee swords. And then when I'd given everybody else their socks, I gave him his real present, which was a pair of socks that said "Grumpy Old Man," and I loved those.
Grumpy old what?
Grumpy old man.
Grumpy old man. So he thought that was right. So I got the guys a bunch of socks, and we all had hugs and goodbyes. Oh, I forgot to say we had a lot of times after training, we went right back into the Denny's and had breakfast for dinner at like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. It was wonderful. And again, showing his ninja capabilities, I would be like, "Oh, guys, I'm just going to the bathroom. Please excuse me." And Steve Sensei would straight away shout to the waiter, "Don't let him pay." He knew what I was at. So anyway,
so they looked after you as
said
well.
goodbye
That's
to.
very, very
Oh
kind.
yeah, so much. Yeah. Giving me lifts whenever I needed, and Bao took me home to his house for spaghetti one of the evenings, and he said I'm welcome to stay at his next time I go over, and yeah, brilliant.
That's great, man. Very good. Very good.
So I
Okay,
said
well, we're
goodbye.
soon to be jealous. We're soon to be jealous. Well done. Okay.
Said goodbye to all the guys and said goodbye to everybody in all my new friends at the hostel. And my bag on my back. I got a bus to. Oh man, wait till you hear the fucking rigmarole it took to get into Mexico. I had to get a bus to Los Angeles, and then I fly from Los Angeles to fucking Dallas Fort Worth, and I had to change there in Dallas Fort Worth to fly to Cancun. Is Cancun anywhere near Mexico City? Nope, it's about 2,000 miles. Do you want to know how far Los Angeles is from Mexico City? Also 2,000 miles.
Well, you know,
So
San Diego is about 10 miles from Mexico.
I know.
It's on
I
the
could have
border.
flown from Tijuana. I could have flown
You
from
could have
Tijuana,
swam.
but
You literally could have swam.
Walk there, man.
I mean, you go along
no, you
the
can
San
walk.
Diego, go along, just go to the beach, 10 left, walk a couple of miles until you hit the wall, and you swim out 10 meters where the wall stops, go around the wall and swim back 10 meters, you're in Mexico.
I know.
You don't mind
I
about
know.
people going that
Yeah,
way. It's kind of hungry.
But the
the
reason
sharks are only
is
looking that way, they're not looking that way, so you're grand.
I mean,
I
canoe,
had
man.
already booked a Spirit Airlines flight from fucking Los Angeles to Lima, Peru. But that was before I decided it would be a wonderful idea to visit Ricardo Sensei in Mexico City. So Spirit Airlines don't fly to Mexico City, and they don't fly from Tijuana to Mexico City, even though there is a beautifully convenient flight right there. So I had to fly to Dallas and then in Cancun. But Cancun was fucking cool. I went to Chichen Itza, the Mayan ruins.
Cool.
One of the new wonders of the world. So that was really cool. Anyway, then I only spent 2 days in Cancun.
I think it's quite old.
I think it's been there a wee while.
Maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years, actually. There's nothing new about that.
Oh, I know. No, actually, it's only a few hundred years old. Um, they're not that
Well,
ancient.
that's what they tell you. If you want to believe that, you believe that, Ruth.
Yeah, it was the
Aliens,
aliens.
UFOs.
The tour guide was wacky. He was like, he really believed in a lot of strange conspiracy stuff, which just gave color to because he gave all the accurate history as well. But then was like, but it could have been aliens. Anyway, he was like an old Mexican hippie. Um, 2 days in Cancun, and then I flew to Mexico City, and Ricardo Sensei picked me up, and man, what can I say? I had 5 amazing days in Mexico City. Ricardo Sensei and his family and his dojo and Mexico City in general, fucking amazing. The hospitality was just, actually, everybody who's hosted me so far on this journey has shown me incredible kindness and hospitality, like a lot more than I ever expect anywhere I land. I'm thinking, oh, this will be
Or
okay.
deserve.
I was staying in, yeah, better than a lot more than I deserve. Yeah. We got so much incredible food, and we did so much training, and there was grading at his dojo over the weekend, and I taught a little seminar, and I got a little bit of money for teaching the seminar. And his students, I have to like figure out where to start with Ricardo Sensei and his dojo, because his dojo is amazing. It's like in a shopping mall. And it's really, really nicely like made up and decorated, and it looks super professional and super cool. But everybody talks about a dojo having, our dojo, it's like a family. It's got a real family feeling. Nuh-uh. Not until you've seen Ricardo Sensei dojo. That is the real family dojo. First of all, there's 3 generations of Galina teaching inside that dojo. There's him, there's his mama, and then his kids are nearly old enough to start, teaching kids classes, and he's got all his students helping him. When you get your shodan in Ricardo Sensei Dojo, that means you have to spend 1 year helping out at the dojo. You get to wear your belt, but you don't get your cert until you've done a year of helping out at the kids' classes and, mucking in and doing your best. And it really, really makes it like a community. And I know the Hombu Dojo in Dublin is like a community. Every dojo I've been to all over America was like a community. But just this is different. This was much, much more. He's got these students. He's got 4 students who all want to become professional karate instructors. And it's only a small dojo. That's quite a high threshold. I mean, it's quite a high number of them. And I told them all they have to head to Dublin and do the internship. So they're seriously considering it. The place might be full of Mexicans soon, lad. Get ready. You'll be crawling with Mexicans. Yeah.
That's great. What did you done a wee seminar? What were you teaching?
I taught, what did I teach? I did a little bit of back leg drive for the juniors, and I did the same thing for the seniors, but I had 2 classes with I had 2 classes with both groups. What did I do? Back leg drive I definitely did on the first day. It was a 2-day thing. On the first day. And then on the second day with the juniors, I just did I was teaching them how to brace their core because they were kind of wobbly. But by the end of the section, they were doing Heian Shodan like competition style with like really sharp endings because they were bracing their core. And I thought that was cool. And then what did I do with the grown-ups on day 2? Oh, Uchikomi. Footwork and finished with Tabata. Yeah.
Me, guys.
Exactly. Come on, move, don't stop, don't breathe, just go.
That's great, man. Cool.
Yeah. So Mexico was wonderful. We got so much good food, and Ricardo Sensei was impressed with my stomach for spicy food, so he started pushing me. He was like, "Oh, you like spice? All right, try this one." And we each, it was like 1, 2, 3, go, and we ate this pepper at this restaurant we were at, and he was like cool as a cucumber. It was nothing to him, and I thought I'd be fine too. Jesus, the heat started building. The next thing I was like, oh, fuck. I need more training.
Sweating buckets.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I forgot to say about Mexico was one of Ricardo Sensei's students is a guy called Oscar. Really cool guy. He does a lot of online training because he lives a bit away, like an hour away from the dojo. So he trains with Rick Houghton, and I think he's trained on a few of your online courses, Sensei. He got me these headphones because he is a fan of This Wee podcast. So Oscar came along and he was like, "This is a wee present for you." And I was like, "Oh, what? Why?" And he said, "Because the last podcast, the sound quality was so shit and you kept cutting out. So take these."
I have to say, it worked a charm.
Yeah, but now that he can hear you clearly, he's regretting it. He's going, "You didn't really have much to say."
Yeah. Yeah, he's full of shite, actually.
Okay, shout out to Oscar. Thank you, Oscar.
Cheers, Oscar.
Yeah, muchas gracias, Oscar.
And did you and Ricardo have a high fly? Have a high flying session where you jump and spinning? Because when he was in Dublin teaching, he was doing this bicycle kick to the bag where he basically flipped himself, kicked in mid-air before he landed on the ground. And he was tapping everyone in morning training with that double shirogane, that jumping switching and shirogane. Unreal. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, unfortunately, we didn't do any kumite. Obviously, I didn't want to teach kumite in front of Ricardo Sensei, so I didn't do it in my class. And I actually only trained in one of his classes because there was training on the Thursday night, and then it was all just grading. But just on that, when in his class, it was a lot of kihon, and he was throwing these mawashi geris and these yoke geris like fucking hell, man. Dude's, I think he's in his 50s, or he's about 50, maybe about to turn 50.
Yeah, just short. Yeah, I think he's 77. He's born, or 76. Yeah.
Yeah.
77.
So fucking hell, his kick's unbelievable. Really great, really cool. So but during the grading, right? You know how when we do a grading and it's like we have 200 to get through, wham, bam, 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 you know, great, 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 like, and get them off, get them lined up, get them doing their shit and move on. Fucking not in Ricardo Sensei's dojo. Not because there's any dilly-dally, but because if somebody makes a mistake, it's like, get back, do it again. You're not focused. This is all in Spanish, but I think I could like gather what he was saying. He's like, you're not focused. This is a fucking grading. Look at you. What is that? Is that your front stance? Is that your front stance? No, that's not. Is that your get on barai? Come on. All right, stop. And then he'd go like this, and he'd be like, listen. And he'd lecture for about 10 minutes in the middle of a grading, and all the mamas and papas are sitting around. Everybody's watching. It's only a small dojo. Everybody can hear everything he's saying. But he spent a good 10 minutes lecturing about how this is a grading and it's important and your attitude needs to be better. And I was like, oh, yes. This is the dojo. But obviously you can't get away with that in a big dojo like ours. And it's just completely different. You know, he doesn't employ he doesn't employ 6 people. You know, he doesn't need hundreds of students to keep those 6 people employed. So yeah, it just runs completely different.
You put up doing the accent when you were impersonating your father.
Yeah, with what he did.
Yeah.
Did I do an accent? I can't remember.
No, he didn't. It was good.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
Ricardo Sensei is a wonderful guy.
So you're in Mexico for 5 days, or in Mexico City
Yeah,
for 5 days?
I was only in Mexico City for 5 days, and then I flew to Lima. I stopped in Bogota airport for 8.5 hours. That was great. Yeah, I know.
A lot of stuff to see in the airport, yeah.
Yeah, I know Bogota airport very well. So got to Lima. What did I do? I only spent 2 days in Lima because I didn't want to be in Lima. I didn't want to like travel in Peru. I just wanted to get to the jungle. So just spent 2 days in Lima, took another flight to a town called Iquitos, which is way, way up in the north of Peru, right on the Amazon River in the jungle. And Iquitos fucking boggles the mind. It is pure chaos. There are these things called moto taxis, which is where you get the front bit of a motorbike and you attach it to the back bit of like a horse box, some kind of trailer. And you sit in the horse box and the motorbike goes, takes you around the city and you're fucking jostling for space with other moto taxis and wild dogs and fucking lizards and I don't know what else. It was absolute chaos. There was like these grand, beautiful floral pattern tiled buildings from the rubber boom era where all these wealthy Portuguese and Spanish had landed in and brought their wives and their mistresses and built themselves big houses and then just like pieced out 10 years later when they had figured out how to farm rubber in like Africa, you know, for much cheaper. And yeah, it was wild. It was like very, very poor restaurants. Nah, there's some restaurants, but generally it's just like a shed with a table inside it, like a plastic table with sort of a vinyl tablecloth over it, and some big mama dishing out rice and chicken. So yeah, Iquitos is cool. I stayed there one night and then got on another wee boat. And this wee boat took me about an hour up the river to a village called Santa Maria. And Santa Maria just reminded me of my childhood in West of Ireland in the 90s. It was just really parochial. They just about had mobile internet connection, but there were just 2 shops and a pub and like 3 churches. And about 300 people. And everybody just lives in like huts. It's always hot. Every day and every night it's about 30 degrees. So they don't really even have walls. It's just like a load of planks, a load of boards that mostly cover the side of your house and a tin roof on top of it. Boom, that's your home. Because they don't need protection from the elements because it's always warm. And you know, the lizards, the ants, whatever, they live with it. I got bit by so much shit out in the jungle. I stayed in the jungle for a month. I was attacked by wasps, got stung in the face by wasps. I got bit by, not a bullet ant. If I got bit by a bullet ant, I would have been seriously cooked. But like the bullet ant's little cousin, which had me writhing for about 20 minutes in pain. If I was bit by the bullet ant, it would have been 8 hours, I think, from what I'm told. And spiders, like big old jungle spiders. You think like, oh, if I got bit by a spider in the jungle, I'm dead. No, I got bit loads of times. Big ones, little ones, fucking all of them. Like, yeah. I saw a snake, man. I was walking through the jungle, and I just heard like, and well, I've been daydreaming. I've been listening to a podcast. Big mistake. No podcasts in the jungle, guys. I looked up and I had been right about to step on a black snake about 6 foot long, and he was fucking off into the grass. But like that could have been me. That could have been me then. Huge fucking.
That's wild, yeah.
That is wild. That's sort of experience.
I can't.
I can imagine you walking through the jungle, listening to your podcast, and every creature imaginable just fucking stalking you like I'm gonna kill the fuck guy.
Well, can you imagine, like, what happened to Root? Oh, he was in the jungle, he was listening to a podcast, and he was gobbled by a snake. Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah. Whenever you're walking through the jungle, when you're not listening to a podcast, right? There's just like constant movement around you inside, like you're on the path, but just a few feet to your left and right, there's something skittering along all the time, and you cannot see it. It's a snake, or it's a lizard, or it's a bird, or it's fucking something. There's constant. There's just life everywhere out there. Constant movement and jittering and skittering, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
It's very hard to describe the jungle. I was there for a month, and definitely it was the most different place I've ever been. It was really, really isolated. I was doing jobs for Rory. I was like helping him like trim his banana trees, and I built some furniture for one of his wee huts that he was building. What else did I do? Making compost, like collecting rainwater. Fucking, it was real basics. When the sun went down at 6, that was it. I was in bed by 7 every night. I was in bed by 7. I was asleep by like 8 or 9, and I was up when the cock started crowing at 5. Cock started crowing at 5. I was like, well, that's it. Sun's coming up, into the Maloka, training every morning.
good.
Training in the Maloka, which is like this ceremonial octagonal room that I had all to myself because it's only used for karate training and ayahuasca ceremonies.
That's good.
And then cooking me, and there was more or less of us at different times. Sometimes there was only 4 of us. Sometimes there were like 9 of us in the house because people come and go all the time. All these hippies, all these travelers. I met a guy who'd been traveling for 9 years. Most of the other people I met had been traveling for about a year, but they have no plan. They're just like, yeah, I landed in South America and I don't have any plan. I might find somewhere I want to stay. I might go home at some point, but they have ways to make a little bit of money, and they just have ways to spend no money. One guy bought a motorbike, and he'd been traveling on his motorbike, and he'd stop at a nice little forest or a bit of jungle, throw his hammock up, put a little cover over his hammock in case it rained, and that was him. That's how he traveled. So he'd spend whatever he had to spend on food every day, which is fuck all in South America. You can survive on absolutely nilch, especially when you're out in the villages, out in the countryside. And that's how they travel. They don't give a fuck. They don't have a plan. That's just what they're doing.
And where were they from? All over the world, or most of the
Yeah,
US?
all over the world. I met Spanish and Germans and English and Turkish. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Real backpacker. Wouldn't suit me. I like having a plan.
Yeah. Well, you have a year and then you have to be home. That's it. No go around
Exactly.
for
I
9
know.
years.
I know. Got a woman waiting
So
for me back home.
exactly, yeah. So you're in Colombia now.
Yeah. I took a 2-day boat on the Amazon River down to a little town called Letizia in South Colombia. Letizia is completely isolated from the rest of Colombia by like hundreds and hundreds of miles of jungle. So the only way to any other part of Colombia is by flight. So I got a flight to Santa Marta, which is where I am now. Santa Marta is a nice little touristic kind of a town. And I've spent 2 days here, and I've been kind of splashing out. I've been spending like €7 on dinners because I've got another place that I'm going to volunteer at tomorrow. Today. I'm going to arrive there today, and I'm going to start tomorrow. It's a glamping place. I'm going to work the bar, serving all the fancy tourists at a glamping spot, and I'm going to train on the beach every day for about a month, and I'm going to go surfing.
You're there for a month now.
Yeah, I reckon I'll be here for a month because I'm going back to New York to play a few gigs, make a bit more money. I'm going to meet wee Sarah there as well, and then I'm going to Thailand.
What do you mean?
And you what?
Yeah, but then I'm going to Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. So when you going to be in New York?
Late February, early March. Well, no, actually, late February and then most of March.
I'm going to be there in March.
You are not.
I am. 27th.
Take me out to dinner, Sensei.
I will. If you're there, I'll take you for dinner.
Come and give me money.
Yeah,
What are you doing? Are you teaching?
No, we're like, so all of us toured here, and we've got tickets to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So we're going to be there all week, from the 27th until the whatever that week. We're going to be there for a week. So
cool.
we'll maybe meet up.
Easter week.
Easter week.
Okay, cool.
The Wednesday before until the Wednesday after.
Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, we'll discuss that offline.
Yeah. Off air.
Cool. Sounds good.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous.
How long have we been talking? Have we been talking a long time?
An hour.
No, I need to shoot to the dojo soon.
Well, I'm glad you've caught up with all our adventures and asked us what we've been doing.
Listen, guys, the podcast is called Karate Adventures, so I think it's obvious who the fucking podcast is about.
You know, I flew around the world 3.8 times last year.
Jesus. Is that like your miles?
158,000 kilometers or something.
I drank enough Guinness to circle the world 3 times.
Pine pot until they go round and round and round.
To fill the entire oceans.
Yeah.
Wow, good man.
There we go. Well, anyway, at some point in the not too distant future, you'll be doing sod all, and we'll still be kind of having Karate Adventures, so we can continue it there.
Okay.
So will we talk to you next week? We said
He's going to fucking be doing for the next month.
Yeah, I'm not going to be at much. I'm going to be doing lots of training, but nobody wants to hear about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll catch up, and then maybe next time you can ask us about what we've been doing.
We'll tell you what. We'll make the next episode. We'll make the next episode all about you guys.
Sounds good.
We'll see.
I'll have some stories.
Yeah. All right, mate.
I want a blooper reel of your surfing. No, a surfing blooper reel. Sure. That'd be good.
I have one of those GoPros in front of you as you're surfing with the big shark behind you. So cool. All right then. Well, I guess we'll say goodbye.
Okay.
Great to see you, mate. As always.
Nice seeing you guys. Hello to the people.
We'll catch up soon.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.